Fighting Irish are on a mission. Undefeated Notre Dame continues its quest for the college football playoffs and the program's first national championship in 3 decades. Tonight they battle Navy on the West Coast.
They've given us all that we can handle year in and year out.
Ian Book leads a newfound Irish aerosol that suddenly has Notre Dame clicking on both sides of the ball as the best defense in several years under the Golden Dome gets ready to take down Navy's option rushing attack.
Navy's a tough team. Each year it's close.
Will the Irish close the chapter on October and head into the final month of the regular season with another dominant effort on the road? Find out now on WSBT 22.
You are looking live at San Diego County Credit Union Stadium in San Diego. Folks, we are less than 1 hour away from kickoff as undefeated third-ranked Notre Dame gets set to take on Navy in one of the oldest continuous rivalries in all of college football. Good evening and welcome to this live presentation of WSBT 22 Sports. I'm Pete Byrne. We'll be heading out live to San Diego in just a minute for an update from down on the field as Notre Dame is preparing for its 92nd meeting with Navy. With 5 games remaining in the regular season, Notre Dame is ranked 3rd in the country. And when the college football playoff rankings are released next week, a top 4 pole position seems to be a lock, assuming the Irish can get by Navy tonight. Notre Dame has enjoyed tremendous success in this matchup over the years, but during the last decade, it hasn't always been so easy. Since 2007, Navy has 4 wins over Notre Dame in 11 tries. And while the Irish will certainly be heavy favorites tonight, as they are undefeated, Brian Kelly knows all too well that his team might have their hands full if they don't execute early on in this football game.
They're extremely efficient. They've given us all that we can handle year in and year out. You know, there has to be an incredible sense of urgency on the offensive side of the ball by maximizing possessions and quite frankly, every snap, because you just don't know how many possessions that you will in fact get. Scoring points is absolutely crucial.
WSBT 22's Adam Derengowski joins me now live from the field at San Diego County Credit Union Stadium. Adam, we just heard head coach Brian Kelly say that scoring points tonight will be crucial, and to that end, the Irish are going to get some help in doing that.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. Brian Kelly's aware of it. So are the players. They need to maximize their possessions, and the only way to do that is to get the football into the end zone. Now, historically, this year, rather, Navy is averaging 35 minutes of possession a game, and they're averaging 10 plays per offensive series. One of the ways that the Irish can combat that is with Ian Book. Book, of course, leads the country in completion percentage, completing 103 of his 137 passes for 75%. So the Irish fully understand that putting points on the board every possession is crucial if they want to remain undefeated.
We've been talking about it all week. We know that we have to be efficient. You only get the ball so many times, and when you do get the ball, it's very important that we put points on the board. So, you know, it's not something that should scare anybody, but it's just we got to do what we've been trained to do throughout the week and try not to be anybody, be a superhero, or just play how we've been playing and play inside the system and trust the coaching, and we should be fine.
Every possession we get on the field, we know we got to score the football. And we have to make the most of them, so we got to be sharp in everything that we do. There can be no mental lapses or mental errors because you're not going to expect it from Navy, so we got to mimic that and execute the way we're capable of doing.
Back in 2016, the last time Navy beat Notre Dame, of course, the Mids held the ball for over 20 minutes in the second half and only gave Notre Dame 6 possessions. Now, one way besides Ian Book that the Irish can combat that is with the running game. Of course, Dexter Williams has played well, and they get Jafar Armstrong back, who has been out for the previous three games with a knee infection that he was forced to have surgery on. Pete, back to you.
All right, Adam, thanks a lot. You can see the Irish warming up in the background there. We've got a whole lot of show for you folks as we get ready to kick off tonight between Notre Dame and Navy. Still ahead, a behind-the-scenes look at the production that will go into the nationally televised broadcast you will be watching here tonight. And coming up next, Notre Dame is back in the top 5 and has their sights set on the college football playoff. We will visit with some of the experts about Notre Dame's resume and their chances of finishing the season in that all-important top 4. Stay with us. Welcome back again. Another live look at the stadium in San Diego as Notre Dame kicker Justin Yoon is going through his pregame warm-ups, and you can also see some of the Navy midshipmen taking the field as well, as we are now less than 1 hour away from kickoff between the 92nd meeting of Notre Dame and Navy out in San Diego. Notre Dame is coming into this game off of its bye week, and the national landscape has certainly shifted a little since the last time Notre Dame found itself on the field. The Irish are now ranked 3rd in the nation and appear to be completely in control of their own destiny as they head into the stretch run of the football season. Now, you don't have to look too far to see what type of challenges will be in store for the Irish the next few weeks. It was 1 week ago that Purdue upset number 2 Ohio State. That game helped vault the Irish to number 3, and it's also a lesson for Notre Dame to heed. The Irish are 24-point favorites tonight in San Diego against Navy. Earlier in the week, I asked Coach Brian Kelly if he'd use that Ohio State game as an example to his football team. While he didn't plan on bringing it up directly, he is well aware of the distractions that loom for a heavily favored, undefeated team.
Well, I think it's human nature to be distracted easily today. You know, there's so many devices to do that. You know, cell phones, computers, you know, I think all that is information that's, you know, easily available that, you know, can distract you. And so how do you avoid distractions, I think, is where we try to do a really good job on, you know, the mental performance piece, you know, sticking with what matters the most. And that is in your preparation and how that will affect, ultimately, your success.
And we will know soon enough how well the Irish prepared for tonight's test as we bring in Adam Darengowski again. Adam, there certainly will be no shortages of opinions on whether or not Notre Dame belongs in the college football playoff picture over the next few weeks. And I know you spoke with someone out there in San Diego who's in the know on this sort of thing.
Yeah, no doubt, Pete. You know, with wins over Stanford at home, Virginia Tech on the road, and most of all Michigan, the Irish, of course, are going to be in that conversation. Of course, as you mentioned, there's a lot of football left to be played and a lot of opinions that will impact if Notre Dame gets one of those coveted 4 spots in the college football playoff. I actually got the chance to speak with CBS Sports analyst and former longtime coach Rick Neuheisel on his thoughts on the Irish.
Notre Dame and Navy is one of those games we look forward to on an annual basis because not only the historical perspective and how these two became rivals over the years, but just the contrast in styles, right? It's like they say in boxing, the styles make the fight. And for Brian Kelly, it forces kind of a change in his philosophy because he knows once he punts it or gives it back to Navy, he may not see it for a while.
Now, this game could obviously have national implications if it ends up one way or the other. In your mind, you've seen a lot of college football in your time. Who are the top 4 teams in your college football playoff scenario right now?
Well, Notre Dame's in that number. I mean, they have played well, and the victory over Michigan keeps getting better and better, right, as Michigan continues to improve as a football team. You know, they held Michigan to less than 100 yards rushing, and everybody else seems to be just getting out of Karan Higdon's way. So Notre Dame's clearly in it. I'd have Alabama in that number. I'd have LSU in that number, given the way they take people on face up. And obviously Clemson right now is kind of rounding into form. But so much still to be done. And I think the question that all Notre Dame fans really want to know is, can we stumble? Can we get one loss and still get there? And I think the Pac-12 is cooperating. I think right now a 1-loss Notre Dame probably still beats a 1-loss Washington State, which is the last 1-loss team in that conference. But the Big 12 could be a little thorn in the side there because we saw a resurgence of West Virginia last night. And then is Texas really back, right? Texas is only, I think, a 3-point favorite in this game against Oklahoma State. But if Texas finds a way to, you know, continue to gain traction, then obviously that team's also going to be a thorn in the side for a 1-loss Notre Dame. So it's just easier for the Irish. Just keep winning.
It's that simple. Just keep winning. But in that scenario, if they do keep winning, do they have to keep winning impressively in order to take those 1-loss teams completely out of the picture?
By virtue of their win over Michigan, I don't think it has to be beauty points. I think winning will solve everything. Obviously, you'd like to win impressively. It makes everybody feel better. You can see the improvement on a week-to-week basis. But, you know, this is a team that defensively had to go take the field 3 times this year, with the team having a chance either to win the game or tie the game on the final drive, and every time the defense has risen up and gotten it done. So I think Notre Dame has what it takes to get there. I understand the angst because Notre Dame fans have been there before, but I think this is a different team.
Well, there you have it. Now, hopefully, I'm sure Notre Dame fans are hoping that that isn't the announcer's kiss of death as Rick Neuheisel gives his opinion. Of course, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and LSU in his top 4 as of this week. Of course, speaking of Rick Neuheisel, we will hear from him and the rest of the CBS Sports crew that are bringing you this game live on WSBT 22 as we got to peek behind the curtain of the CBS Live trucks. That's all coming up after the break.
The music that's on it.
Bravo are coming out. Okay. Yeah. That's
Welcome back. We are now about 45 minutes away from kickoff between Notre Dame and Navy in San Diego, the 92nd meeting of this intersectional rivalry, which will be brought to you tonight right here locally on WSBT 22 and across the nation on CBS. We're going to head back out to San Diego now, and Adam Darengowski rejoins us. Adam, you got a chance to witness something this weekend that very few sports fans ever get to see with their own eyes.
Yeah, Pete, I think we all like to sit at home with our favorite foods, maybe an adult beverage or two, and just watch the game. But we really fail to realize the kind of scope that this kind of production takes to put on. Of course, one of those guys that is part of the production, Erin Taylor, is actually down here on the field as he's watching Notre Dame and Navy get warmed up. And we actually got the chance to go behind the scenes, behind the curtain, and get an inside look at what the CBS Sports crew has to do to bring you this game live and in prime time. It's a song that has become synonymous with some of the biggest moments in college sports. And on Saturday, it will signal kickoff, not just for Notre Dame and Navy on the field, but for a third team of unsung heroes. An entire fleet of CBS Sports personnel, around 80 in total, have made their way to San Diego to document the 92nd consecutive meeting between Notre Dame and Navy. They've been here on the West Coast all week long, gearing up for this primetime matchup.
You don't just show up, plug in, and the game goes on. There's basically, a week and a half to 2 weeks of preparation leading up to the game.
The crew includes graphic artists, engineers, and a whole host of cameramen.
Manned cameras, we have 10, and then we have some locked off cameras as well, I think 4 of those. For this game, basically all in all, there'll probably be about 16, 17 cameras. They all have their assignments. That luckily is the director's job. He gets to pick out the shots.
There have to be constant lines of communication between the crew in the trucks and the guys calling the game up in the broadcast booth. One of whom is all too familiar with the Notre Dame-Navy rivalry.
I hated playing Navy, man. They were so pesky and just never said die. Based on how they
Former Irish All-American Erin Taylor will have the call alongside longtime coach Rick Neuheisel and play-by-play man Carter Blackburn.
The fun part about this job is you combine a football game where you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen and live television where you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen, and you put the two things together and you make it work like a seamless piece of entertainment. But it's a ton of fun, and to have number 3 Notre Dame on CBS is one of those things that sounds real sweet.
This CBS crew covers everything from the NFL to the Masters. And whether you're calling the shots in the live trucks,
That's what we're going to do.
or calling the game in the broadcast booth,
It's organized chaos. The 3 to 3.5 hours usually, go by pretty quick.
you're happy to be a part of some of the biggest moments in sports.
That's the big payoff. I mean, you put a lot into it. Do you have a little butterflies in your stomach before every game? Yeah. But when you have a really good show and the game is also great, that's the most gratifying.
we are hoping that it is just as gratifying as they hope it will be. There you see one of the 17 cameras, one member of this 80-man crew as Notre Dame and Navy continue to take the field for this primetime matchup. And guys, I gotta tell you, I saw the open to this game, and you will not be disappointed. It took all week to put together. It has history, it has drama, it has everything you want leading up to a primetime matchup. Pete?
All right, I like that, Adam. Not just covering the game, but covering the coverage as well. Thank you very much. We'll check back again with you shortly. Meanwhile, we've got plenty for you at home as we continue to count you down to kickoff here between Notre Dame and Navy. Still ahead, we'll have a one-on-one conversation with former Notre Dame All-American Erin Taylor, who, as Adam mentioned, is calling the game tonight for CBS Sports. And coming up next, the last time Alohi Gilman played in a Notre Dame Navy game, he was actually starring for the midshipmen. Tonight, he suits up for the blue and gold of Notre Dame, and we will visit with the Fighting Irish safety, who's had quite a journey to get to this game tonight in San Diego. That's all when we return. You are taking another live look at sunny San Diego, where we are a little more than half an hour away from kickoff between the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame and the midshipmen of the Naval Academy. And Notre Dame, midway through its warm-up, as you see Brian Kelly there in the distance greeting the officials. Hopefully, they're on BK's side tonight. What do you know? Maybe greasing the wheels a little bit? Nah, I'm just kidding. He's not doing that. Welcome back to our show, folks. Since Ian Book took over as the starting quarterback, Notre Dame is averaging 39.5 points per game. That's 16 more points per game than they did prior to Book's ascension. And the biggest benefactor, arguably, has been Miles Boykin. Over the last 3 games, Boykin is averaging 115 receiving yards per game. And listen to this, all 4 of his touchdown receptions, they've also come during that span as well. Through 7 games this year, Boykin is leading the team in receiving yards and in touchdowns, and it's quite clear he's got a rapport with Ian Book that only seems to be getting stronger by the day.
You know, day in and day out, Miles works so hard, and, you know, I think our chemistry is starting to come along a little bit. And, you know, when it's a critical down, he'll make the play for us. So, you know, he's one of the playmakers that I try to get the ball to.
Ian's finding you a lot, and he's finding you in the end zone a lot. Where does that rapport come from?
Practice, honestly. I mean, we practice every single day. And the way we practice is so tough, you know. I don't know if a lot of teams in the country practice like the way we do. And, you know, it all pays off. By the end of the week, I'm sore. Like, I'm thinking I just played a game already. But, you know, by game time, I'm already ready to go again. So I just give a lot of dedication to practice. And, you know, we don't take anything for granted.
Seems like the two of you are really on the same page right now, though. Is that real? Does it feel that way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, usually I know when the ball's coming my way just from being able to read the defense, knowing him and knowing the ball's coming. So I just try to be in the right spot at the right time for him, and he's going to make that throw.
Boykin has raised his game as much as anyone on the Notre Dame offense this season. He was a relative unknown last year until he broke out with the game winner in the Citrus Bowl game. Now, similarly, there's a guy on the Irish defense who spent the last season in the shadows. Adam Derengowski joins us again live in San Diego. And Adam, seems like the Irish have a secret weapon in the secondary tonight.
I would say that's the case, Pete. Obviously, a lot of these guys, when you play for 92 consecutive years, know what it's like to play against Navy, but very few know what it's like to play for Ken Niumatalolo and the Mids. Of course, one of those guys is on the Notre Dame roster now, and it's Alohi Gilman, a safety. Obviously, he spent his freshman season with the Mids before transferring and ending up in South Bend to play for the Fighting Irish. But of course, he's become, as you said, Pete, somewhat of a secret weapon, full with information on the Mids attack. I got the chance to catch up with Alohi and see why he ended up at Notre Dame as opposed to staying at Navy.
It's aggressive. It's competition. I'm always down for some aggressive hitting, so I'm just excited to play.
You won't find many guys on the Notre Dame roster that excited to go up against the challenging triple option attack of Navy. The reason Alohi Gilman is one of them? Because during his freshman season, the safety went against it every single day in practice.
I bring some experience with the triple option. I mean, I played against it for some years, and then playing against other service academies, Navy, Army, Air Force, comes with experience as well. I think I have some knowledge and some tips I can give some of the guys.
Gilman spent his first collegiate season in Annapolis, proving to be a pivotal part of the Mids defense. But a change to the Service Academy's rules stating that all cadets must serve 2 years of active duty after graduation put Gilman's hopes of playing pro football in jeopardy, forcing him to look for a different opportunity. And while he made the Notre Dame coaches, fresh off of a 4-8 season in 2016, work for it, he ended up in South Bend.
So when I came on my official visit, I was pretty upfront with the coaches here. I obviously wasn't a high school recruit, so they couldn't get me with the stadium and the gear and all that. Obviously, it was all great, but I hit them with some real questions. I mean, how is this program looking? What are you guys doing to be better than 4-8? And so it was definitely an upfront conversation, and I just felt comfortable here, and I felt like the program was going in the right direction.
And he's provided a lot more to the Irish defense than a knowledge of the Navy attack. Gilman has the 3rd highest mark on the team with 38 tackles in 2018, and more importantly, has the secondary playing with an increased level of confidence.
He brings a kind of a toughness, if you will, a swagger to our defensive backfield. And I think it's rubbed off a little bit on our safeties. And certainly he's a really good player. You know, he's athletic, he's tough, he can play the ball. But I think his presence has equally brought that kind of influence, if you will, to others, and has elevated their game as well.
All of which are characteristics Alohi believes he learned at the Naval Academy, and ones that he continues to carry with him during his time at Notre Dame.
I've learned so much at Navy. I don't think I'd be the person I am today without being at Navy, and just carrying it through these past couple years and sitting out last year has been challenges that made me a better person, and so this game obviously means a lot for me.
Of course, Alohi Gilman knows the mid-system very well, but he also knows the guys on the field quite a bit too, especially the mid's leading rusher Malcolm Perry. Alohi kind of reminiscing this week about the battles that he used to have with Malcolm, calling them just a bit of friendly fire. So it should be fun to see Alohi line up against him for real this time.
Yeah, Adam, and when Notre Dame and Navy last played 2 years ago in Jacksonville, Gilman actually probably had the best game of any of the midshipmen on the defensive side of the ball. And it's interesting, even though he's a transfer and a first-year starter, it seems like he's one of the emotional leaders of these defenses, is he not?
I would say that's correct. I mean, he has been in the battles. He's been in the battles since he was a freshman. And I think that kind of goes back to that naval background. He knows what it's like to live real life experiences. These guys, you'll hear Aaron Taylor say it later, this is more of a recreation for them than an actual job. So he knows what it's like to go through some real battles, some real tough times. And I think he brings that over to him as he comes to Notre Dame. And you can see it on the field because the secondary has played incredibly well this year. Partially due to the fact that their defensive line and their linebackers have also played well. But when you hear Brian Kelly say that he brings an edge to this secondary, it's pretty obvious on the field.
All right, Adam, thanks a lot. Good points there. We're going to check back in with you later live in San Diego. In the meantime, we need to take a quick break here on the program. But coming up a little bit later, when we head back out to San Diego, we're going to hear from another guy who knows firsthand what it's like to face the Navy on the football field. And when we come back, Notre Dame is now up to 3rd in the polls, but where will they be next week when the first college football playoff rankings are released? We'll explore that question and look at the obstacles standing between Notre Dame and its first ever playoff appearance when our program continues.
We've been in this position multiple times. Everyone's, patting you up and talking how great you are. And if you listen to that, you're gonna end up losing focus and you're gonna end up losing. So we got to stay locked in, learn from our mistakes in previous years, and finish our job this year.
Welcome back to the program. We are closing in on kickoff between Notre Dame and Navy as we'll head back to San Diego in just a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm joined right now live by Eric Hanson, the Notre Dame football insider for the South Bend Tribune, and also a voter in the AP poll. And Eric, I want to look at the top 10 plus right now as they appeared this week in the AP poll and talk a little bit about playoff potential, because as a lot of folks know, next Tuesday, the very first college football playoff rankings come out. And I think there's a lot of interest as to where the Irish will fall, because where they sit in the polls now is not necessarily where they will be come Tuesday.
Right. Sometimes the committee throws a little bit of a curveball. The one thing we know is, number one, Alabama didn't play today, LSU, Michigan, and Clemson trucked Florida State. So really, Notre Dame kind of controls maybe with how dominant they are today, whether they're 3 or 4 in the first rankings.
We'll look at a few of these teams at the beginning, and I think everybody assumes that those 3 undefeateds are right where they will be. I mean, Alabama's resume to this point is not all that impressive, other than the fact that they're winning their games by almost 40 points per game. Who they've beaten is less important, or less impressive, I'd say, than how they've beaten. Probably the same with Clemson. And we know Notre Dame's resume. I mean, what's really important for the Irish right now is that 3 ranked wins. That's not going to go away at any point this year.
It's not, but a lot of times teams tend to jump other teams as you get into a November schedule. And you look here with Northwestern, Florida State, Syracuse, and USC, there's not a team that really jumps out at you that's going to be a strong resume builder. The thing is, if you're 12-0, I don't think that's a concern. If you're 11-1, then the margin of victory and style points comes into play.
If they were to be 11-1, what's the best one, do you think, from here on out? What's the game they could probably most get away with losing, I guess, is what I mean.
I think Northwestern, because you have to have some time to come back and distance yourself from that loss, to show people that was an outlier to who you are. If you wait till the USC game, I think it's difficult, because everybody else that you're competing with pretty much is going to be playing in a conference championship game the next weekend.
Now, of the one-loss teams, LSU is 4th in the poll, and I don't think anybody can argue with their resume. 4 ranked wins already. And, by the way, they've got Alabama next week. I mean, nobody disputes if LSU wins out, they're getting through because of their schedule. Do you think a 2-loss LSU team can squeak in, or is 2 losses exclude you?
I think it's difficult because they wouldn't have the 13th game of playing in a conference championship. And you know, Texas A&M, I think, would be a good win for them. You know, Mississippi State and Auburn aren't, and Miami especially, aren't quite as impressive as they were earlier. The Georgia win looks really good, but I think 2 losses, they're out.
Sure, but at 1, they look good. Of course, Michigan's sitting there at 5th. That's Notre Dame's best win right now. They've got 2 ranked wins, but they lost to the Irish. They still got a chance to play Penn State. They still got a chance to play Ohio State. Is there any scenario where a 1-loss Michigan team jumps an undefeated Notre Dame?
No, no way.
I wouldn't think. Is there a scenario where a 1-loss Michigan team jumps a 1-loss Notre Dame team with the same record, do you think?
I think that's possible, given where that loss would come to Notre Dame, and the fact that Michigan would then have beaten Ohio State and then have beaten maybe not a super good team in the Big Ten championship game, but still would have 11 wins in a row. Yeah, I think what we're finding right now is that these teams in the top 5 all really control their own destinies right now. Then it gets a little bit more interesting. Texas's resume is actually very, very good. They've kind of snuck up on some people after beating Oklahoma, but they, like Notre Dame, have 3 ranked wins. Their loss came to an unranked team, but it was week 1. They've still got a ranked game out there and potentially a Big 12 title game. To me, as I look at all the teams in the Big 12, and we'll talk about Oklahoma in a minute, to me, I think Texas is the one team in the Big 12 that can play their way in. I think they can. They need to be a little bit more dominant. They had a close call with Kansas State. You know, again, West Virginia, they have to hope that West Virginia, Texas Tech, teams like that continue to win. That's kind of what's hurting Notre Dame's resume. Sure. USC lost to Arizona State at home today.
And obviously, we just saw here about a half an hour ago, Georgia looked very impressive beating Florida. And Florida's got a really good resume, but I think with 2 losses, we'll take them out of the conversation. But Georgia now, again, has a chance to win the SEC title, and I think it's probably understood that an SEC champion's getting in, right?
I would say so. They still have Kentucky and Auburn, and then that finishes out their SEC slate. So that would put them into the championship game. If they were to beat Alabama and then
they're in, yeah.
They're in.
They're in. And you could potentially have 2 SEC teams in at that point. Do you think a 1-loss Alabama team gets in probably?
We'll have to see. I mean, it depends what everybody else does. They're not getting in over undefeated Clemson and Notre Dame. So it would really, they would be competing, you know, if Georgia's in, then they would be competing with somebody like Michigan. 2 more teams I'm going to talk about before we let you go. Oklahoma Sooners currently 8th in your poll. They're 6-1. I thought this was interesting. They have not beaten a ranked team all year, and they only play one more ranked team this year. Do they have much of a shot? I don't think so. I mean, they would have to run the table and then kind of get help from other people. You know, they have the overtime win over Army, which wasn't impressive.
Right.
They give up a lot of points. You know, I'm not sure that they get by Texas Tech. I think West Virginia is going to be an interesting game. But where's their quality wins?
Exactly.
And that's what the committee is going to say.
And lingering at 11 and not playing this week is Ohio State. They lost to Purdue, but I feel like if they win out, they're still in the conversation.
I think they're in the conversation. They have to get a lot better. You know, Purdue really exposed a lot of things on their in their skill set, but Nebraska isn't the kind of team that's going to be able to expose that, or Maryland. It's really going to be Michigan and Michigan State that they have to worry about.
All right, your prediction for the top 4 next week?
I'm going to go with Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and LSU in that order. I'll be really boring.
Just like you picked them in your poll this week.
Absolutely.
All right, you can check out Eric Hanson every day in the South Bend Tribune. Eric, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, we got to take a quick break, but we're closing in on kickoff between Notre Dame and Navy. Here's another live look from San Diego. We'll have much more with the Irish right after this. And welcome back. We're giving you another live look inside the stadium down in San Diego, where Notre Dame is getting close to kickoff. You can see the Irish special teams. Looks like they're lining up for an extra point, which is pretty much the last thing they do before they head into the locker room and make their final preparations for the game. Welcome back, everyone. Now, earlier in our program, we heard just a little bit from Aaron Taylor, the former Notre Dame two-time All-American and Super Bowl 31 champion. We'll be calling the game here tonight as part of the CBS broadcast team. Adam Darengowski joins us again live in San Diego. And Adam, you got a chance to spend a little time with Taylor yesterday, I understand.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. And, you know, nobody understands the gravity to both sides of these games than the people who played in them. And Aaron Taylor, of course, played in a number of them. The two-time All-American now works as a sports analyst for CBS Sports. As you hear the Irish getting a cheer as they exit to make those final preparations. Well, I caught up with Aaron Taylor to get his thoughts on this Irish team and how they may fare the rest of the way this season.
It's a historical game and a very respectful rivalry, and I think refreshing for college football as a result.
While the respect is always there when Notre Dame takes on the Naval Academy, that doesn't mean you have to enjoy playing the Mids.
I hated playing Navy, man. They were so pesky and just never said die. They play to the whistle, and they just seem to be a thorn in your side the entire game. And because they're so disciplined, they force you to be even more disciplined.
The group that must maintain that discipline is no doubt on defense, as the Irish will have to go up against the seemingly simple yet difficult to defend triple option attack that gobbles game time and can neutralize the best defenders.
Eye discipline is critical. You have to be disciplined. You have to run to the football. You have to do your job and nothing more. You don't have to make the great play, just eliminate the bad one. Because what this Navy team forces you to do is to make the right decision every single time. Eventually, players end up taking the cheese, and if you do that defensively, you'll break down, and that's when they get those big, big runs.
Perry to the edge. Perry with blocks.
The other side of that is that it's death by paper cut. You get these 3- and 4-yard gains for 11, 12, 13, 14 play drives. You can get a little antsy. You want to get yourself off the field. That's also where mistakes can be made.
The other critical portion for Notre Dame is the play of quarterback Ian Book. Now, to this point, the junior has been a spark for the Irish. He leads the nation in completion percentage, and he'll have to be just as efficient today against the Mids.
It's kind of a rising tide raises all boats. Well, Ian Book has been that tide, so Miles Boykin is starting to show up. Alize Mack has started to show up. Notre Dame has to get that running game more consistent. That's still the missing piece. But with the passing game that they have and some of the changes that they've made recently on the offensive line, I would expect to see that piece to come on. If that happens and Notre Dame can run the football as well as they throw it, this will be as balanced of a team as there is in the country.
And that would also likely mean that the Irish would continue to be in the hunt for a spot in the college football playoff. But in Taylor's mind, they'll have to adhere to that old cliche, take it 1 week at a time.
Notre Dame knows that it's undefeated, 7-0, and the #3 team in the country, and that if it finishes undefeated, it very well will likely be in the college football playoff. So they've got to be able to manage that, and the best way to do that is by focus on their opponent that they're going to have, and that's the Naval Academy. From here on out, Notre Dame's worst enemy is going to be itself, so it's got to play discipline-free, make sure that it doesn't make mistakes, and if it does, it may just well get a chance to play for the national championship.
So Erin, Taylor likes the Irish chances. You know, you heard Taylor say earlier in that story that he absolutely hates playing Navy. I actually talked to some of the Notre Dame players that are playing in this game here tonight, and the sentiment is kind of pervasive through the team. Guys like Tavon Coney, Drew Tranquil, not looking forward to playing Navy, but we'll see how it all shakes out here in about 20 minutes or so on CBS. Pete, back to you.
Yeah, they certainly don't have the opportunity to let loose like a normal Saturday. Adam, thanks a lot. We'll check back again with you in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, we need to take another quick break right here, but we will be back with more to get you ready for the Fighting Irish and Navy as the brigade is getting set to march in. Back with more right after this. Welcome back as we take another live look inside the stadium at San Diego as the Naval Marching Band is preparing to take the field tonight as we are about 10 minutes away now from kickoff. Welcome back, everyone, to the Notre Dame Navy pregame special here on WSBT 22. We are closing in on another game as the Irish look to improve to 8-0 tonight. Of course, one of the big reasons the Irish are still undefeated is an excellent defense. Only twice in 7 games has Notre Dame allowed more than 17 points, and those both came in blowout victories. And you could say it all starts up front. Take a look at some of the statistics by the Notre Dame defensive line this year. No other front in the country is putting pressure on the quarterback this season at a higher rate. Jerry Tillery is leading the team with 6 sacks, but Julian Okwara has 25 pressures and has hit the other team's quarterback 11 times. After Notre Dame's most recent win over Pitt, Brian Kelly was asked about his line's ability to get pressure on the opposing quarterback.
Some of the statistical things that are interesting, we're about 115th in the country in terms of completions per game. I think we're like 10th or 12th in terms of yards per completion. And a lot of that is because we don't have to bring pressure because our 4-man rush is getting pressure. So you may get some completions, but they're very short completions. We're coming up and making tackles. We're keeping the ball in front of us, and that's the kind of defense that we're playing right now.
And we bring Adam Derengowski back in live in San Diego. Adam, Notre Dame likely won't be adding to that list of quarterback pressures a whole lot tonight because, as we know, Navy rarely passes. Nevertheless, if the defensive line can be productive, it probably bodes well for the team's ability to stymie Navy's triple option.
Absolutely. All they're asking is that they be just as disruptive to this Naval offensive rushing attack as they usually are to many of the spread teams that they've played so far this year. That's going to be pretty pivotal to Notre Dame's case in this football game, as you see the Brigade Marching Band behind me right now giving the fans a show. Otherwise, it's also about the offense. If the defense can stymie that attack by Navy, then the offense, the Irish offense, needs to score and score and score and score. Maximize those possessions. You've been hearing it all week long. You got to make the most of it, and that's by getting into the end zone, not getting through the goalposts. Of course, Navy holds the football on average 35 minutes and 36 seconds per game and averages 10 plays per offensive series. So the Irish may not touch the football most. You either pray that you win the coin toss or you do something about it and you maximize those possessions. The other thing in my mind is going to be getting Ian Book in a rhythm early. Of course, he's had great success throwing the football. He leads the nation in completion percentage, and Navy has struggled stopping the pass this year. They allowed 413 yards to Houston last week, and while Houston has Ed Oliver, they're not exactly the premier defense in the NCAA. So it should be an interesting game. If Ian Book can get it done with his arm and the Notre Dame defense can get it done, they should come out with a win. Pete?
All right, Adam, very good points. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, we are just about ready to kick things off tonight. We're going to take one more break, and we will be back with our final thoughts right after this. Welcome back. One more live look at San Diego County Credit Union Stadium as we are just minutes away from kickoff between the Fighting Irish and the Midshipmen of Navy. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to head right back down now, live stadium field side, where Adam joins us one final time. Adam, we're just about ready for kickoff. Quickly, give me your keys to the game here tonight for Notre Dame.
Well, as I mentioned previously, I think it's all about scoring, 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 and those are touchdowns, not field goals. As they need to maximize their possessions because they won't get many of them with this heavy rushing attack of Navy. And then on the flip side of that, you got to get Ian Book in a rhythm early. Get him feeling good. Get him some completions early in this game because there will be chances for yards and points as this Navy defense struggles to limit the pass. They allowed 400 last week. If they can do that, I think Notre Dame and Notre Dame fans will be happy when they come back to the Midwest.
All right, my keys to the game for this. First of all, I want the fast break for Notre Dame. I realize that's a basketball term, but I think Notre Dame can put up points in a hurry. We've seen them do it on several teams this year. We know they need to do it tonight. And Navy has never scored 40 or more on Notre Dame in a regulation football game. So if the Irish can get to 40 tonight, I think they're going to be in good shape. Secondly, I want Notre Dame to be who they are. It's a term we hear from Brian Kelly very frequently. He tells the team, be who you are. Right now, the Fighting Irish are the #3 ranked football team in the country. And if they play like it tonight, I'm sorry, no disrespect to Navy, but they do not have any chance of hanging with the Irish in this football game. That's if the Irish play to their potential. If they fail to do that now, we know that this could be a very difficult football game and one that might not go their way at the end. So if the Irish play fast on offense and play like the #3 team in the country that they've looked like on several occasions this year, they should have a good chance at being victorious. Nevertheless, that's why they play the football game, and it is one that you're going to have a chance to see live right now here on WSBT 22. We're going to say goodnight for now, but be sure to join us right here on WSBT 22 News at 11, immediately following the football game between the Fighting Irish and the Midshipmen of Navy. Enjoy the ball game, everyone.